Hi everybody, this is Rod Norman. This is a guide to beginning ceramics, or beginner's guide to ceramics, part 7. This is a Japanese technique called Kurinuki. All right, this is the carving away of clay. All right, and the idea of irregularity, uniqueness, and roughness in the outside texture of a bowl or a cup. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, we've wedged and pounded our clay into a large ball. And this time we're going to do a technique, a Japanese technique called Kurinuki, which is carving out. We're going to carve the outside of the bowl and we're going to carve out the inside. That's why we need a little more clay to begin with. All right, we form it into roughly a cylinder. Now you can actually pound this against a very rough tree bark to get a nice texture. I'm going to use a large round tool. I'll leave plenty of room on the outside. As you can see, I start and go around, then I go down in, and I take out small chunks. Now I'm going to move it to the wheel. When I've got the inside cleaned out about enough, I use my round edge and I pull straight up very lightly from the bottom so it doesn't gouge too much. Okay. All right, that makes the basic inside, which we're going to smooth down and enlarge a little bit more. I'm going to push it out. Just a little more. And then we're going to press down the bottom. And around that, we don't want any kind of drink particles or residue to be left in any cracks or anything, which would cause bacteria to form over time. So we want the inside to be pretty smooth. It's the outside we're going to make rough. And we go around the upper edge a bit, smoothing it down. Notice we leave a lot of material on the outside, even though we've made the walls thinner. Okay, now we're going to start carving the outside. All right, we'll start with it on the wheel. In a bit, we'll pick it up in our hand. We do rough carving, rather deep, because we're going to make what looks like rock textures. We're careful not to cut too deep. We don't want to go to the inside of the cup. Right now we're just working a little at a time. Nothing is set in stone. We're going to come back on this. Okay, now we pick it up, we look at it, we look at the areas we've done, the areas we haven't done, we look at the shapes we've got, we start looking at places and ways to improve this. Now we're using a knife tool. It's not necessary for the knife to cut clean all the way through. We're not trying for perfection. We're trying for the irregularity that occurs in rocks. Now, having carved the sides sufficiently, we're going to go back to work on the upper lip, pinching it, drawing it in, making the lip a little wider. We don't want any sharp edges. You don't want to cut your lip on it. We'll be smoothing it down with a little bit of water at a later point. And even at the very end, after it's completely dry, you can sand it. All right, so we go around, we pinch it in. This bow is going to be very irregular. Because it's meant to be more like nature. The Japanese see nature as high art. And the things they observe as they walk the paths in the woods, the tree bark, the rocks, the gravelly ground, all these things become part of their aesthetic. What they see is what they make. All right? In Western culture, we tend to correct the unnatural to us look of nature and try to bring it into some kind of order. The Japanese celebrate and worship nature. Now again, we're going to cut the foot. As you see, we can cut away quite a bit over here. We're going to keep with the rough texture. And I'm going to use a square cutting tool. And then we'll go back to clearing away this excess around the foot. The foot can be very regular or it can be irregular like the rest of the drinking vessel. I'm not too worried about making it perfectly round in the spirit of the Kurinuki. Okay, the Kurinuki bowl or cup is now at the point where you want to get it leather hard. You'll be able to go through and look at some more of the texture and see where you might cut away more. All right, and you can rough it up using a piece of very rough, this is number 60 grit sandpaper, and you can pull that across the surface as I have on this one, all right, creating scratch marks in the rock surface, okay, making it look even more rock-like. All right, so that's Kurinuki.